All right,
So,
cool.
all right, cool. So I saw the study you sent me about the advanced variation. You've tried to refute my
Oh, that was just for
opening.
fun, yeah. It was mostly because I
Um,
actually put a cheeky reference, not a reference, but I put a cheeky comments in there in one of the chapters.
I
I don't know if
saw
you saw
that. I saw the
that.
reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking we could talk a little bit about that because although I think your lines are quite good, I don't think it's I've done more analysis of that line since I had that game with Craig Hilby, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think at like this moment,
Hmm.
an improvement over knight f6 is actually to go knight e7 to c6
Hmm.
and then g6. Right.
Oh
So I
yeah, I
think
saw that G6
chat,
line. Yeah, I
you had
didn't quite
mentioned in
put
the
that
chat
G6
this whole
line.
knight f6 and then g6, which is also something I've looked into.
Hmm.
But I think the knight is actually better placed over here.
I see.
And I can give you engine permissions if you want for a moment. Oh, I
Well,
should share my
yeah.
screen so that
Well, the point isn't to refute, it's just to pose practical problems, right? Like I haven't
right, right.
I haven't really played the advanced Carol since I've done my actual, in-depth analysis on this. That's why, in the games that I mentioned in this study, I did not play accurately, but yeah, yeah, it's just for fun mostly because
That's okay.
I don't know if
And
you've
I
seen my
mean,
other,
at
I don't
some
know if you've seen
point,
my other studies, but some of them are pretty popular.
oh, I think I have seen some of your opening studies.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something that I
So
did for
this,
fun. But
yeah, and I saw there's like a
yeah,
lot of people coming in and looking at it, right? So I don't know if
yeah.
that's, did you make it public or is there like a Discord that you shared it in or something or both?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. People always look at my stuff on Discord.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know this is no I mean at some point it's just
Mm.
computer against computer because we're getting outside of the realm of known theory here, right? But
Hmm.
I do think like this 97 move is probably what black should do. And then let's say bishop d3, queen knight c6. There were two games that have reached this position.
Hmm.
Uh and one of them went queen g3, g6, castles, bishop g7, rook d1, castles. And this position is just totally equal. Like black has zero problems here. It's 0.0. This was Andrew Hung against Alexander Ostrovsky,
Yeah.
and it just ended up being a draw. So this is, and you had mentioned how this is kind of an awkward structure, but I disagree. I actually think it's um,
Hmm.
quite a nice, pleasant structure with all the pawns on the light squares and the bishop on the dark squares. And the reason the bishop on g7 is actually a lot more effective than the bishop on e7, right? Because on g7 it's piercing down this diagonal. It's making b4 a lot harder to achieve.
Hmm.
Even if white does achieve b4, then the c3 pawn is going to be a weakness. And so, yeah, I think this is probably the way that black should go. But anyways, I like that I appreciate that you put that study together because it's always good to have people try to test my opening and poke holes in it
Yeah.
because it helps me learn it even better and
Uh,
help fill in some of the gaps. So
mhm.
okay. But that's the main thing I wanted to mention there. But other than that, like the lines you put in were quite good. And I mean, I will agree to a certain extent that this knight c6 move is um okay, the computer doesn't like it as much as e6, right?
Mhm.
And if white really knows what they're doing, white can get an advantage. That's true. But I do think it's practically quite difficult for white. So
Mm. Interesting.
yeah. Anyways, I still believe in it. I still get away with it quite well, even at the IM level. So
Even
yeah, I
against
plan to
uh
continue.
even against 4 DC5, you still like that? Like 4 DC5 F4, you still, because I've
For
seen I've seen
DC5?
I've seen I've seen a lot of good
Oh,
games in that.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right. I don't want to reveal too much of my secret sauce, but actually, I guess I can. So this is what most people have considered like the refutation to knight c6 recently, right? But I
Hmm.
don't think it's actually that simple. I like to play knight h6 here,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And then there's a couple of approaches white can take. There's like knight f3, there's c3, there's bishop e3. Um, and there's this idea that a lot of people don't know about, where in a lot of different positions, G5 is actually really powerful. So, for example, bishop E3 here is already really well met by G5. And
Yeah, I'm aware
I
of these
think black
ideas.
is,
It's pretty difficult to meet if
mhm.
you have no idea. But
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. This is already a novelty, of course, but it's computer approved. The computer says plus 0.3, but this
Mm.
is, far from a refutation if G5 is plus 0.3. And if you take it, then it's equal after knight G4, bishop F4, and like just bishop G7 and knight takes E5, right? White center has totally collapsed. We'll get one of the pawns back, and well, actually, hold on. Am I counting correctly? Yeah, we'll get one of the pawns back, still be down a pawn, but black, of course, has a lead in development and, in my opinion, a pretty comfortable position. Could also just get the pawn back right away, and maybe you should. So the computer says this is just equal. And there's other things too, like, okay, knight F3, bishop G4, bishop E3, knight F5, bishop F2. This is yet another situation where G5 strikes and
Mm.
black is equalizing. F takes G5, E6, like knight D2. There's like queen A5 and bishop takes C5. Or
Yeah,
if let's say C3.
you can't take on E5 there
Uh,
right away. Is there some move there? Because
so well, when
there's no queen
after
D4 or anything. Or no, like here. Okay, I guess inserting E6 can't hurt, but why is black trying to go for the C5 pawn instead of the E5 pawn here? I'm not saying
so
right
this
away
is
here,
just a blunder.
like E6 first makes sense, but
Yeah.
so why do you go queen A5 instead of taking on E5? What am I missing? Oh,
You're missing bishop B5 check, and then knight has to go back, and then this it's just not very good to
oh
lose
right,
all
yeah,
that
bishop
tempi,
E5 makes
right?
sense. Yeah. Okay.
And then like this and this, and then the bishops hit and the knights hit. It's and 95, right? It can very quickly
Mm-hmm.
get quite bad. Um, so and that's actually in the line that you see I play in your study. Like that's why A6 is so important, is actually to shut down bishop B5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, after queen A5, you're just getting the C pawn back, especially because C3, bishop takes C5.
Yeah,
Okay,
of
bishop
course.
takes F2 comes with check, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
no forks or anything. And yeah, I don't know. This is some of the secret sauce that I've got in this line. There are just many moments where G5 is quite powerful. And a lot of times it's a move that the computer won't recommend at first, but then once you play it, the computer and you let the computer think about it, the computer will understand that it's actually quite good. So, and then I think probably the best line is just C3 here.
Mm-hmm.
And then because here you don't want to go bishop G4 because white's not going to just put themselves into a pin. They'll meet bishop G4 with queen B3, and then you have to worry about H3 and G4, and then the knight is stuck on the rim, so that's no good. But C3 E6, bishop E3, and yet again G5 in this position. White is a little bit better here, but only if they find a lot of correct moves. They need to take, then after knight F5, they need to go back to F2. Queen takes G5, knight F3. Like this is some
Mm.
line that I've analyzed that basically I've worked out to being a slightly better endgame for white. Like this endgame is plus 0.5 according to the computer. But
Mm.
like this is I don't know. It's far from a refutation. I think F4 knight H6 with ideas of G5 is very tricky for black, or
Mm.
very tricky for white to handle. So, anyways, enough about me ranting about how good the Caro-Kann is. There's other things that we should focus on. So, okay, in our first lesson we did a lot of calculation work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do one more week where we continue to focus on that, and then I promise we'll branch out to talk about other topics and cover some of your other weak points. But I do want to do some more work on calculation today, but also on evaluation, because one of the things I've realized looking over your games and hearing your thought process is a lot of times you disregard a line, not necessarily because you can't calculate it, but because you can't evaluate it clearly, or you just misevaluate it. You think it's bad when it's actually good, right? So I've got some calculation exercises for you today where you certainly have to do some calculating, but you also need to be able to concretely evaluate the position at the end. All right. And yeah, so let's jump into it. Let's see how it goes.
All right,
We will
second
start.
chapter.
What's that?
Yeah, all right. Sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's just start with this position here. This is from a rapid game that I played a while back. Try to find a good resource for white and calculate it.
Okay, so right off the bat, I mean the move seems rather obvious. It's just I'm not sure what the best reply for black would be in either this move or the move after what I'm thinking. Um, So I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to strictly calculate, if that makes sense.
What's the move that
Yeah,
you're thinking white should play?
I want to play knight d5, but I'm not sure if those liquidations favor me because, well,
That's what you need to figure
it's not
out,
like
right?
because it's not like black wants to push either his c pawn or his b pawn just yet, right? Or I guess he's kind of threatening c5, just so it makes it harder for us to play knight d5.
Yeah, I would say black probably wants to play c5.
So I guess if he can get away to c5, then yeah, like strategically, it's hard to see.
Then if you pass your turn,
Yeah,
c5, knight d5, takes, bishop d6.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
And Light square
like
bishop's
this is
opened
getting
up.
blockaded. Yeah.
So knight d5, I like the look of this. Let's say knight d5, knight takes, e takes. You have pressure on the c pawn, and then takes. But the thing is, it doesn't really change. Oh, okay, I see something actually. So knight d5, knight takes, e takes. If he tries to play c5 there, you have to move d6, I believe, to win material.
Yeah, because after bishop takes d6, the queen is just overworked, right?
Yeah.
And then simple move there, just bishop takes, queen takes, rook takes d6, wins a piece.
And the other
So
line
that's
just
nice,
looks
right?
good. Like c takes also just looks good because
Well, try to calculate it though, because your initial feelings about the position aren't always going to be right.
yeah, so takes. Yes, and so knight d5, c takes. The knight will be loose on e5. Rook is hit. I guess. I guess what's critical there is. Oh, wait, there's no. So my idea is I just want to like win a pawn, like knight d5. If it concretely wins a pawn, I should probably go for it. Even if the pawn will get
If it
blockaded, it
concretely
doesn't
wins
really
a pawn,
matter.
you should go
Yeah.
for it. But that's the question,
Um,
right? You don't want it to just be a drawn endgame.
Yeah, I
So
see.
what do
So
you think they would do after you trade the queens and take on e5?
what I don't want to do is, let's say he plays rook c5 at the end of that line, just trying to
Hmm.
defend d5. What I don't want to do is I definitely do not want to take on f6. Because I mean b2 will be a target long term after that, and two bishops does not look great for
That
me.
doesn't even win a pawn for you, right? Because as soon as
Yeah,
you take on d5, they take
exactly.
on b2, and
So yeah,
that's
rook
not
c5, I
successful.
guess at the end of the line, I see up to there. Just trying to see beyond that. Because if you try, let's say, bishop, well, you can play bishop d4, I suppose. But then the rook will just go
Hmm.
back, let's say, to like c8, rook c to c8, and then hmm, it's a tough call. I see it a creative option. I'm not sure if it's great though. So at the end of that line up to rook c5, you follow that.
I
Um,
followed that. You're going
yeah,
bishop
and
d4.
rook c5.
You're kicking them back to c8.
Yeah, I want to go bishop d4, rook c8, and then I have this idea of going e5 there. After the knight moves, you have knight to f4, and it's just very hard to defend the d5
And
pawn.
just playing against the isolated pawn there.
And keeping the bishop on d4, where it secures b2, it's nice centralized, and we also improve our knight from h3. Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, even if it doesn't like win a pawn right away, let's say, I don't even know what. I guess, for example, yeah, I mean, I don't even see a way for him to, even win e5 there. He's just not in time. So knight f4.
Does e5 knight e4 bother you at all?
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. I mean, still like,
I think
it
before
might it
you
might not be the
calculate
best.
e5.
It might not be the best option because
you-
f4.
So e5 is like the positional move where you're not trying to be greedy,
Yeah,
but which I think you have a tendency towards preferring those types of moves. But you should consider the greedy move, right?
no, no, I see
If you
94 at the
take
end of
on
that
d5
line.
there,
94 at the end of the line. There doesn't seem to be a concrete follow up.
there's not. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah, and the rook on
there is.
a1
You
is
could
still
play knight
bad.
f4, but
The rook on a1 is still bad. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm not too convinced about that line. I
Okay.
am trying to find a way to win a pawn because if I can get it just pass pawn on d5, that'll be great.
Right. Well, what about taking on d5? After like bishop d4, rook c8, e takes d5. If bishop takes d5 doesn't work, right? What could you do there?
Sorry, which line?
No, okay. Knight d5, c takes d5. We trade the queens. We take e5.
Hmm.
Rook c5, bishop d4, rook c8, e takes d5.
Hmm. So is your
Follow that.
point? Oh, okay. So is the I see the point is to take on g7, I guess. Huh.
d7?
G7,
Well,
G7,
oh, if knight takes?
or like just whatever. Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
guess
that
knight
I
takes
didn't
too.
even think about that, but that would work. Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
was just
Okay.
also thinking they're in a pin here, right?
Hmm.
And so bishop takes g7 is nice, but I was also thinking a move like bishop b6 there could work.
Yeah. And the rook has
And
to go back to
point
c8.
is,
That's the good part, right? Like the rook has to go back to c8. It's like the only square.
mhm,
Uh,
yeah,
because yeah. Well, I suppose rook c4 is also possible, but
that's true.
looks like a similar story, right?
Hmm. Okay, so let's say they rook c8, right? We're taking on d5. If they take with the bishop, that just loses to bishop takes f6, right?
Sure.
And if they take on g2, we take on e7.
Hmm.
They take on h3, we take on f8. We're winning the exchange.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so hopefully you're able to calculate that. But um, okay, so what else can they do after like bishop d4, rook c8, e takes d5? Yeah, knight takes d5. Yeah, as you said, I mean, bishop takes g7 seems to win a pawn. We might have even better. I think bishop b6 is probably better. And then the point is knight takes b6, bishop takes b7, rook b8, a takes b6, rook takes b7, rook takes a6.
Hmm. Well, that wouldn't be
You
possible
see
in the
that
rook
line?
c4 line. In the rook c4 line, it wouldn't be possible, right? Because bishop
That
b7 wouldn't
is that's
take
true
the
because
rook.
bishop takes b7 wouldn't come with tempo, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should figure out what to do on rook c4.
But I guess you can still take on a6 afterwards, no matter where the knight moves. So. Hmm. But I'm concerned about like knight b6, knight
Yeah,
c4, and then b2 will be hit anyway. And
yeah, that's true.
yeah, the knight will come to c4 after that.
And once we take a6, if we get to take here, then
I guess
okay,
yeah,
the a pawn would
exchanging
just win us
b2.
the game.
I guess if you liquidate the b pawn and then you just have it past the a pawn, that's probably just good.
Yeah, take on a6, then go back to b7. That's just GG, right?
Yeah.
A bishop on b7 and a pass pawn on a5, like that's not getting stopped.
Yeah.
So okay, well, what else needs to be calculated? Rook c5 isn't the only option, right? There's also like rook d7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, rook d7 I did not consider. Again, I'm very hesitant to take on f6. It doesn't really seem to lead us anywhere. Okay, if the bishop's still on e5, how about we still take on d5 because takes, knight takes. Yeah, it's still not convincing. Thanks.
Well, okay, so after rook d7, we're taking on d5. They are taking back with the knight, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, take back with the knight and then problem is the rook on d7 just defends. There's no pin anymore.
Well, there's no pin bishop to bishop, but there is a pin rook to rook. Right? The rook on d7 is unprotected.
Oh, did I
Or
just completely
well,
misvisualize that? Hold on, Jake.
all right. No. I'm sorry. That's wrong because it's not unprotected, but well, after knight takes d5, it would be, right? Like
Oh,
knight d5 takes, trade the queens, take on e5, rook
okay, but
d7.
but he still has
E,
another rook. So like, let's say if you try exploiting the pin with like first one knight f,
yeah.
yeah, okay, knight f4 would work if he didn't have rook f to d8, right? Because let's say if he takes an f4 trying to take on g2 afterwards, that wouldn't
Yep.
work because his bishop on e7 would be loose in the end, and he would be up in exchange, I think.
Yep.
But he has rook f d8, and I mean,
And you're gonna stop calculating there?
no, I'm still looking.
Mm-hmm.
Bishop. So hard to visualize the transformation of the position. So
Yeah.
takes. Okay, so I don't know. Yeah, okay, so I'm sensing some tactics just because the bishop on e7 is still loose. And there are still some potential tactical issues along the d file. So if I can ever get
Mm-hmm.
like some combination of like net f to d5 and takes d5 and bishop c7 or something along those lines to deflect the rook.
Yeah, yeah. You're onto something there.
Oh yeah, I think that wait, I think that just works. Okay, yeah, so bishop takes d5 there, and then bishop takes d5,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have bishop c7.
Yes, and then they
Yeah,
have
yeah,
rook
and
takes
then
d7.
yeah, rook
Or
d6, and then knight d5
rook,
hits both the rook and the bishop, and you just take the bishop, and I guess that just
and
wins.
then if they take
Yeah,
back, d8 hangs at the end,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very
That's
nice
interesting.
calculating. Yeah, that's right. There's also a simpler win there after. So okay, let's say after rook d7 takes,
Mhm.
knight f4, rook d8. There is also just bishop h3, and the rook on
Right.
d7 is trapped,
Yeah.
or like yeah, has nowhere good to go. But your line works as well there with the whole bishop c7. That's the much more advanced line, but that works as well.
Yeah. I
So
didn't even see bishop
okay,
h3
let's
to be
let's play
honest.
some of these lines out on the board. Oh, what were you saying?
I didn't even see bishop h3.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, rook
that's the
d7
simpler
is,
move, but it's all very difficult to
and
find
again,
when you're
bishop,
calculating
bishop
like
takes
60
d5 is
feet, right?
impossible. Yeah, so bishop d5 is not
Bishop
possible
takes
because bishop
d5, just
f6.
bishop f6. Knight takes d5, we pile on with knight f4. If we didn't have this, then it would just be totally equal, right?
Hmm.
So it's important for us to be able to do these calculations, or else we're just drawing this game. So we have to find that this works. And after rook fd8, yeah, I actually really like your line here. Bishop takes, bishop c7 is pretty beautiful.
Hmm.
And yeah, takes, knight takes, white wins. Or, of course, bishop h3 is arguably a bit simpler, and that traps the rook, right?
Hmm.
So, okay, and the other lines we looked at were with rook to c5, and here we were saying bishop to d4 can kick the rook away.
Yeah.
If the rook goes back to c8, they could also go to c2, which you didn't really mention, but
No,
it's
I
okay.
saw
I
that.
don't
It's
think
just
it changes.
the reason why I dismissed it was because I mean the bishop on d4 is so good in protecting, b2, so it didn't seem like
Right.
it was that much of a concern, right, to allow the rook there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're actually right here that e5 is good. E5, knight e4,
I mean, just playing against
and
this
then
pawn
just
on
something
d5
like,
looks pretty good. Yeah.
yeah, something like bishop b6, rook c2. You can just go knight f4, and then, yeah, d5 is going to collapse. So this e5 is quite good. E takes d5 is, I honestly, okay, I don't even know if I can say it's better because the computer says they're both plus 1.7. So
I mean,
yeah, your
ed5 is a
move was
move
actually quite valid as well.
I should be playing. I know I should be like if I had this position in my own game, I should be probably be considering this move the most, right? If it works, I'd like to imagine.
I think e takes d5 should be considered before e5 because
Yeah, yeah.
e5 is a positional approach where you're hoping that one day you'll be able to win the weak d5 pawn.
Hmm.
Well, why consider that first when you might just be able to win the d5 pawn
Yeah.
immediately?
Hmm.
Right? So and it's harder to calculate this, right? It's easy to just say, oh, e5 and positionally we're better here. And that's true. This is a harder thing to calculate, but it also has the potential to be much stronger. So it should be thought about first.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I was calculating here is that after knight takes, there's this knight f4 could work, but I was thinking bishop b6. Oh, also this is actually this is like a slight edge for white, but I think black actually gets decent compensation for the pawn after like bishop f6,
Yeah.
rook b1, rook d8. All
Yeah.
right,
The
like
knight's out of
this
the game.
is
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Something like this is not convincing. Uh, but bishop b6, this is the line that I was thinking about. And after knight takes, bishop takes, rook b8, takes. Or actually, honestly, just bishop takes a6, right? We were saying this is probably better.
I mean, in
Uh,
that rook takes a6 line, he has bishop c5 there. Hmm. So I didn't really see the
yeah,
follow.
exactly. I missed that at the end of the line. So okay, my calculation was actually bad here.
Yeah, yeah, this
this is
looks
the
much
point.
better. Yeah.
And then just bring in the knight or something. And okay, the a pawn should win us the game eventually.
Hmm.
Okay. So I feel like this is the type of move, and I could be wrong, okay, and maybe I'm being a little harsh, but I feel like this is the type of move you would think about in a game for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes and then
Hmm.
still be unclear about and decide not to do.
Well, it depends.
Uh,
Like, yeah, if it's my own game versus what I'm seeing right now, I mean, it's like it was a very obvious resource, and I got to calculate that. But I feel like
mhm,
for me personally, like the major branching point in my decision making here would be because 95 is screaming to be played, but
mhm.
in that variation later down the line, it's whether I play E5 or ED5 is where I would probably take the most amount of time on, you know.
Okay.
But like 95 just, looks like it can't be bad, so I don't know. I'm
In
still
this line,
not
yeah.
entirely sure what I would do myself in a game. Uh,
Yeah, they're both good.
I
The
mean,
computer says they're both equal.
it's not like I play like very many Kingside Fianchettos structures in
Yeah,
my own
yeah.
game,
I
so
know this is not an opening that you usually get into, but
mhm,
well, okay. So all right, maybe I should give you some credit. Maybe you would have played it because
mhm,
you did find that after E5 there that white is better, and that is true. So yeah, hopefully you would have gone for it. Okay.
mm.
So let's take a look at another position. This time we're in the end game. And there's not a whole lot. Oh, I
Oh, the
already.
second.
Wait a second. This one. Sorry. We'll go to the third one in a minute.
Oh,
But
for some reason I
um.
thought that number two was the one that you just looked at because it
Oh
says your
no,
name
sorry.
because you didn't put your name on the first one. Okay, never mind.
Oh, that's right. I should have.
Yeah.
I didn't know my opponent's username. I couldn't find this game back, but
Okay.
this was a tournament game of mine. So not a whole lot of tactical calculation needs to be done here, but certainly a lot of evaluating the different options and there is calculation to be done. So, okay, black has just played the move f5, and there's really only one way for white to handle this and still keep the advantage. So, what would
Oh, this
that
is
be?
tricky. Yeah, so the most straightforward line would be EF5. I'd imagine Bishop G2, King G2, and yeah, definitely EF5 there. And I guess that line is probably one of the dry ones because uh the knight will come to D5 pretty quickly, and that looks basically impossible to win. Um,
Yeah.
so the interesting move that popped out to me was the move D5. So the idea is to open up my dark square bishop. And
Okay.
yeah, very interesting idea. So the critical line would be probably D5, ED5, and then yeah, and then EF5 most likely.
Okay.
Okay. After rook f5, sure, black can consolidate the pawn with like c6, but it just feels like my rook can get active quite quickly there. Also, oh, I just completely missed that. After ef5, rook f5 is not even possible because bishop h3 just wins on the spot. So,
Right. Rook f7,
yeah,
bishop e6. Yeah.
and also even just positionally, it just looks really good to open up my dark square bishop like this. E5 takes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a pawn sag yet because he cannot take. So yeah, again, even though he can play c6 and blunt down everything, his bishop on 8 will just be really, really, really bad. And ideas like rook a1, rook a7 are really strong.
Yeah.
Uh, and you can consolidate your own pawn to g4, I guess, can't hurt. Or you can start with rook a1, because again, rook f5 is never a threat with the knight still on d7. Huh.
Yeah. Good. There's actually, I don't know if there's that much more calculation to be done. I think this was more so just more so strategical actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is important to see that after rook takes f5, you have bishop h3, bishop e6. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty simple. Um, yeah, we want to keep the bishop pair, right? The last thing we would want is to trade just the light square bishops and then for black to stick the knight on d5.
Yeah.
Then, you know, could even argue that we're worse there with it being good knight, bad bishop, and the c3 pawn being a weakness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we certainly want to keep the light square bishops on the board. We want to keep the bishop pair, and we want to open up our bishops while shutting down their bishop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way to do that is exactly what you said: d5, ed5, ef5, and they
Mm-hmm.
can't take here. And so, yeah, I think in the game, my opponent played
Knight
okay,
e5
why
looks
don't I remember?
interesting.
Yeah, it was knight f6. It's knight f6. But then yeah, rook a1 comes quickly, and then rook to I think I went with rook a6 here
Mm-hmm.
because rook a7, rook a8, I think I was worried about.
Oh yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, it was something like this. I might be misremembering it a little bit, but white's a lot better here. White's got a big edge, and I
mm-hmm.
went on to win. So yeah, and like c6, as you said, like rook a1, rook a7, this is just crushing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all right, yeah, good job handling the pawn tension there properly. And you considered a move that I think a lot of people wouldn't consider there, so that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is the next position. You're already up a pawn, right? So
Yeah.
things are going well. And the simple thing to do would just be something like dc5, right? Trade the pawns, trade the queens, go into an endgame with an extra pawn.
Yeah.
Um, and okay, that's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be like plus zero point 0.8, maybe plus 1. It's gonna be fine, but much more tempting is d5, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that with d5 we can just get a massive advantage,
Mm-hmm.
and this deserves calculation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So try to figure out if this move works or fails.
I mean, looks like it fails.
Why is that?
Because after knight d5, knight d5, bishop d5, there's nothing because rook e7, bishop f3, and there's back rank problems. Oh, wait. Hold on a second.
No.
Yeah, because after gf3, I guess you have g2. Uh,
You'd have to trade the queens first, of course, but you trade the
yeah, yeah.
queens, then gf3, and yeah.
Takes. And the rook on e7 is actually safe, huh? Hmm. Yeah, I think am I just up a piece at the end of that line? Still, the rook on e7 and the rook on a1 and bishop on c1 are all safe. And we traded off the black's remaining three minor pieces. Huh.
Well, if
Yeah,
you're
and,
taking
and
a
and and the
bishop
other and
and
the
then
other move
trading the
order,
queens.
the other move order with bishop d5 does not work either because well, actually, wait, huh? Wait, there's one move order that I didn't consider at the start was d5 bishop d5, and if you take on d5, there's knight d5. If I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken, and there doesn't seem to be anything. So I could try rook e7 there after bishop d5.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a similar story. If he takes an f3, trade queens and take back and you're up a piece. If he takes queen e7, you have to go gf3 there.
If he takes queen e7,
Sorry,
what do you
sorry,
mean?
I meant oh, I was mixing up the two lines in my head. Okay, that's not possible in that move
It's
order.
okay.
Uh yeah, and as if the knight remains in f3, there's no back rank. So rook e7 takes. Okay. So there's a skewer with rook d8 at the very end of that line, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, okay, I think that. Yeah, so d5, bishop d5 is, I guess, the key line. Makes it not work.
Couldn't they do the same thing with knight takes d5? Like
Oh yeah,
knight takes.
rook e7 just queen takes. Yeah, queen takes, and then
Yeah.
you cannot take back on d5. Huh. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
this is a very typical type of
okay.
tactical
You
idea in this
you you
type of
cut off your
position.
calculation very quickly there after seeing rook d8,
Rook d8.
but you might be ending the line a bit too soon.
Am I?
Look for resources.
Oh, bishop g5, right? And there's a and there is a oh yeah, I didn't realize that there was a pin on, on the so there's no
Yeah, no
f6. Yeah.
f6, no f6.
Yeah.
So bishop g5 is very nice, right? That saves the
Yeah.
day for you.
That is right. I should not have missed bishop g5. Yeah. I just totally forgot there was a pin. Because yeah, I thought in my head that those moves didn't work, but
Hmm.
okay. Interesting.
So
And I
I'm
guess
going to
that
challenge
same
you to
idea in
go
both
even
lines.
deeper.
Does it
What's
is it the
that?
same? It's the same in both move orders, right? With
Yeah,
knight
it
d5 and bishop d5.
transposes. If bishop
Yeah.
takes, rook e takes. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
bishop so
Rook
bishop
d8, you
g5.
go bishop d5.
Okay, so obviously if he trades queens there, then we're completely fine.
Well, hold
Piece.
on. They take your queen. You take their queen. Rook e8.
Hmm.
You have two minor pieces for the rook, but you have to be a little concerned about them infiltrating your second rank potentially.
Okay.
So let's try to be precise after rook e8 there. What do you think is the best move?
Isn't our knight on e2 on f3 still safe? So there's no rook d2.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
But for example, bishop h4, rook e2 seems a little
um,
uncomfortable.
is the c5 pawn not hanging?
Is the c5 pawn not hanging? They have a rook on d5, right?
Oh, still okay. So in that queen trade line, bishop g5. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So I guess rook e2 would be the main concern. I see.
Hmm. Maybe you don't care. You can just say, I'll go rook c1 to cover that
Yeah, that is
and
definitely tough to
have the two
decide
minor
in a few
pieces.
seconds. Definitely something that requires some forethought. Okay, so bishop 7. Rook's still on d5. It's really annoying. Um, and it's really hard to play a move like rook e1, just self-pinning like that. Hmm. Because I think the problem with rook e1 would be that he just plays b6, consolidating the c5 pawn, and then he just threatens rook d7 back, and then I have to move my
Mm.
bishop, and my bishop and knight are going to be really bad against the one rook.
Because they'll get to infiltrate either to d1 or d2,
Well, I mean,
right?
like in those
And
end games, right, where
yeah,
you'd have to trade your remaining rook, and then the knight and bishop will be really bad.
right.
Yeah. Uh, 6, 8.
So the rook being on d5 is the really annoying thing, right?
Hmm.
It is on the open d file, but it also defends the c5 pawn. Um,
Yeah, so I'm trying to make c4 work, but just to try, because if I could take on c5, that seems to solve our problems right away.
yeah,
But at the same time, moves like to c4, he doesn't have to stay on the fifth rank. He can just go back, and if you take on c5, he'll win this. Well, maybe he doesn't win the pawn back. Yeah. So I just realized
rook
that
c8.
after c4, yeah, let's
Hmm.
say the rook goes back anywhere, and after bishop takes c5, one of the rooks will come to c8 or to c7, whatever, and then you have b4 there.
Right.
Um,
Two minor pieces and a pawn for the rook. That's
yeah,
going to be a
yeah,
win, right?
yeah.
No
B
question.
b4, and then like b6 is never going to be a problem, just because you already played a6 a week in that square, and then
Hmm.
if he can trade
Hmm.
off the c4 pawn for the b6 pawn, let's see, he goes b6 trying to infiltrate. I mean, yeah, it looks pretty solid construction, right? With if the bishop gets to sit on c5, the pawn on b4.
Yeah.
Um,
Defend each other. That's always very nice.
yeah.
Queenside majority. That's going to be winning, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah, that c4 move is really critical to find. I think that's a really nice touch in the endgame that makes that it elevates it from like +1 to like +2.5, right?
Hmm.
If it were just a +1 endgame, then I might just, save the trouble and go d takes c5, right? But if you find c4, then the endgame is just very clearly just good for white, probably just winning.
Hmm.
Because yeah, the rook either has to pick staying along the fifth rank, but then and I think in the game my opponent played rook f5 and I played rook d1, which was also a nice touch. They couldn't take the bishop because back rank.
Hmm.
So yeah, if we play it out on the board here, this does work. So yeah, bishop takes f3 is not a great attempt because we just trade the queens and take f3.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's this check and we're in a pin, but there's always just b3, bishop b2 to get out of that quite easily.
Right.
And so, okay, the critical test is queen takes e7, queen takes d5, and either rook to d8. Doesn't really matter which one they use. And here it is very fortunate that we have bishop g5, right? And okay, of course, we thought about this ahead of time, so it's no surprise.
Hmm.
No f6. They pretty much have to trade the queens, rook e8.
Yeah.
And yeah, here is where if we just retreat to h4 and allow, rook e2, this position is +1.
Yeah, you
And
can
we
still
have
play
to
rook
play some
c1,
awkward move.
I guess.
Yeah, actually, rook c1 doesn't even work, does it? Because rook takes
Oh
c2.
yeah, yeah. So 91
So
forced. Wow.
91, and then, g5, and I don't know, they double, and it's still better for white, but it's not what you want, right? You
Hmm.
not super clear. But after c4, the computer says +4, +4.5 actually. This
Hmm.
is just the decisive move. And rook f5, I went rook to d1, and f6, I went rook d7. And it was nice.
Yeah.
I was able to save the bishop here without ever having to move it. And okay, and now the rook on f5 is super misplaced, right? And yeah, I just went on to win here pretty easily.
So
So
is
good
it dumb?
calculating. See, I mean, oh, go ahead.
Is it dumb not to consider that he could just go bishop g4 on the second move, or on the first move, or just move the bishop somewhere
Well,
else,
yeah, you absolutely should consider if they don't take the pawn.
like
But
bishop
if
f5.
if
Yeah,
they don't
this is
take the
like
pawn and they just move the bishop somewhere, I figured having a passed d pawn would be quite good. Like, let's
yeah,
say
of course.
bishop g4. Okay,
I can probably apply
I
like
mean,
the same ideas that I would play in like a Benoni structure, but this isn't really a Benoni. This is a little bit
yeah.
different. Hmm.
I would probably play. I would either play bishop f4 or bishop g5. I'm kind of thinking bishop f4,
Well, problem is
threaten
bishop
g6.
d6. Yeah, bishop d6 will come in. There's no way to kick the queen
Right.
back.
But
So
then I was
mm,
thinking that now that they have don't have the pin broken anymore, now we'll go to g5 and let's say something like this, knight e4 and trade. and like c4,
Yeah.
right? If we can make it a protected pass pawn, an extra protected pass pawn, that's that's more than just a +1 advantage, right? That's going to
Yeah.
be at least a +2
Hmm.
advantage.
Hmm.
So that's probably what I would do, is just try to get in c4 and try to break down the blockade of the d6 square. You could also just go bishop g5 right away, and let's say h6 takes knight e4. Of course, this pawn is poisoned, and okay, they don't have control of d6 anymore, and so the pawn is mobile. Although we don't plan on pushing it anytime soon, we're probably just going to go c4 and make it a protected pass pawn, and you know
Hmm.
have it be a long-term advantage. But this is +2. This is definitely, I would say, more convincing than just trading on c5.
Yeah.
This is +1. So, and then you got to worry. Okay, black actually has some activity, right? It's not actually super simple, but okay. So a lot of work there, to be precise. But hey, I mean that's what masters are supposed to do. You put a lot of calculation work in to play a move that's just a little bit better than another move, but precision matters. Okay. So let's keep going. We'll just do a couple more. Um, I like this position a lot. This comes from a game by Pragnananda that he played in the Reykjavik Open
Hmm.
at the start of the year. And I really like the approach he took to this position. So what would you think about doing here?
So you were following the election there.
What would you say?
I just saw you looking at the election there for a split second.
Oh, oh yeah, that's right. I
Uh,
yeah. I don't know if you're following that at all because you're Canadian, right?
I mean, I know about
Dude,
it, but I'm not following it now.
you yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
I'm just checking in, but
I mean, this position doesn't really strike me as super critical here just yet. Don't really see, because in a lot of these positions I know with the pawn on e3, there can be ways to just grab a lot of space with moves like f4, but here it just concretely doesn't work too well as far as I can tell. Um,
what's the problem?
okay, maybe I shouldn't call it a problem, but uh well, I was thinking at first bishop c3, but maybe I'm just overreacting to that. I just don't like how he has a lot of control over the white squares there in the center, and he'll be able to plant a knight on e4, but maybe he
Mhm.
doesn't just because maybe the knight's unstable there. Um, takes. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so after f4, like takes queen takes knight e4, we'll probably just win back the bishop on d2, and I don't really see what I'm playing for there. Having traded off those two
Mm.
pieces.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a very good outcome. And then the
But
bishop
I
comes
know
to
that in these sorts of stretches, like you should consider moves like f4, just trying to play e4 next. But
yeah.
yeah, here it just doesn't seem to work out their bishop c3. Um, so I mean, if I'm playing this just purely off intuition, probably just like rook ae1 would be one of my first candidates. So I can maybe
Okay.
prepare f4.
Yeah, let me think. What would I do after rook a1?
It just
Probably
seems like a
bishop
slow.
e6.
It just seems like a pretty slow position. Not too much going on. So
Well,
unless
you
unless
know
my
about the correct plan, right?
unless I
You
have
know
like
you
a
do want to go f4, e4, expand in the center.
hmm
The question then becomes, do we need to spend time preparing it, or can we just send it right away?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And
So I know. Okay. So yeah, something that I should have considered was just sacking the e3 pawn because I know that in a lot of those positions, yeah, like you don't really care about the e3 pawn if you can just get the two bishops. He's a little bit underdeveloped. Rook a1's
Mhm.
coming next to hit the queen. Um, Also F probably bishop takes f6 is an immediate threat after that as well. So yeah, I am aware of that plan too. Uh, so bishop c3.
Okay. Do you think that's right here?
Um,
Would you evaluate that as being good for white?
so I guess the follow up after, let's say, king h1. It is scary though because there's the rook's still on f8, so there's no threat on f7 just yet. But let's say knight e4 threatening knight g3 check.
Maybe you stepped your king to the wrong square.
Well, king h2. Wait, am I blind? Oh no, sorry, there isn't. I thought there was queen f4 just picking off the bishop, but there's no queen f4. Um, okay. Yeah, maybe king h2. Just because yeah, he has no checks. Yeah, like e5's covered, f4 is covered. Yeah, moves like rook f3, rook e1 looks really powerful. So I guess he would still play knight e4.
Good. Yep.
Then there's rook f3.
Hmm.
But then my bishop on c4 is kind of loose. Let's see. Well, the queen's on e. Yeah, so the queen's on e3. Oh, actually, there's no way to even attack the bishop because um, most moves would just hang the e4 knight after rook f3.
Every move, I'm pretty sure, right? I don't see any way
Uh,
they could save the
oh
queen
yeah,
and keep the knight protected.
yeah, you're right.
So,
Mm.
yeah, so knight e4, I think, just doesn't work there.
hmm
Is there anything else black could do? Like, let's say they just play, for example, queen b6. Just dropping back so that rook e1 doesn't come with tempo, trying to defend the knight.
Right.
How would you approach a position like that?
I like sacrificing pawns.
Okay.
More so in the opening, less in the middle game. um,
Hmm.
takes. So you're saying right after king h2, you want to play queen b6, or
Yeah. Yeah.
oh okay, yeah. So defending the knight on f6, that's what you meant. Okay. Yeah. I feel like if the f4 pawn was gone, it would be so much more attractive because I can just take go rook f6 and just mate him, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um, uh, but I just I'm having a hard time finding a productive move that just doesn't allow him to play bishop e6 on the next move. But I guess I can play
Hmm.
rook. I can play rook a1 to stop it. And again, the bishop on c8 will find a hard time developing.
They might still play bishop e6 there.
Really? Oh yeah, because f takes might be playable, right?
Hmm.
G6, f takes, yeah, because then the f6 knight will be stable again. Yeah, that is hard too. I'm not sure if I want to.
But bishop e6 isn't necessarily the end of the world because you don't need to trade the bishops, right? I
Right.
know when you're attacking and when you've sacked a pawn, it feels bad to drop back to d3, but I mean, hey, those bishops are still pretty
Hmm.
powerful there, right?
Yeah, and you still have rook left ideas, right? Like rook f3, rook g3.
Yeah. Well, maybe
Yeah,
that's what you should be doing after queen b6, yeah?
yeah, rook f3 immediately, huh?
And then just bishop e6, bishop d3. You have the immediate threat there of taking on f6 and winning the h pawn. So black needs to probably spend a tempo on h6, but then rook g3, and looks like good compensation if I if I do say so myself.
Hmm. And I even
Um,
see some
yes.
weird lines like so after queen b6 in that line, um,
Mhm.
rook f3, let's say black tries knight h5. Might just be a dumb suggestion, but like yeah, just like knight h5. You can first spend a move on bishop d3 to hit h7, and after that you can even play
Mhm.
g4 there, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, bishop d3, h6, g4, knight f6, g5, right? Takes.
yeah.
Some just totally busting open the king side. I think that could
Hmm.
I think that could work out.
And the pawn on
Yeah.
f4 actually does a nice job of covering the diagonal, so there's no queen d6 check to worry about.
Mm. Now, if they were to trade on g5, then maybe you do have to worry about that again. But
Yeah. But
so okay, so maybe I don't know. It's a little sketchy to open up your entire king side like that, but it could work. I don't think black's in a position to attack you.
well, I just want to
Right.
deal with this knight h5 because if I cannot get away with g4, then it looks like a good square for the knight. But okay, well,
So let's consider it then quite seriously. So f4 takes, queen e3, king h2, queen b6, rook f3, knight h5.
yeah. Um, yeah. So
Why not just the
it
immediate
doesn't look
g4?
like it doesn't look like yeah, you can play immediate g4.
This is knight takes f4 an issue?
Yeah,
Rook
I was
takes
looking at that,
f4,
and then
queen
g5
d6.
is a really weird threat
Right, queen
for
d6
that.
and g5. I don't buy it at all. Like I think queen d6, rook a f1, g5, bishop takes f6. Or no, sorry, the knight's not there anymore. I'm blind. Um yeah, but I have a hard time believing they could get away with weakening their dark squares that much.
Um,
But okay, that's not concrete calculation, so um so okay, after knight h5, let's try to find something convincing that we're happy with.
well, I is it really like does he even have a threat after that? Because I could even consider
Um,
doubling up the rooks on the f file or even playing rook g1 or something to improve my remaining
yeah.
piece. Not doing much, and then
Good
I can
point.
play.
The knight on h5 is not doing anything, right? You
It's
could
just
play rook
it's
af1
just defending
and
against the
prep
simple
g4.
threat. It's just defending against rook g3. That was my idea. But I mean, as long as I can
Yep.
sit and improve and then always play g4 later, yeah,
Yeah.
looks
Yeah,
about right.
should be good.
Mhm.
Okay, so is there anything else that needs to be considered after f4? I
Yes.
mean, bishop takes. They don't need to take e3 necessarily, right?
So the
They
problem
could try
is
to take the e4 square.
take the e4 square. I'm not sure what you mean about that.
So okay, I'm just like f4, bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, knight e4.
Oh, you mean 94 right
What
away?
happens there?
Mm. Yeah, that is tough to deal with because there might be bishop f5 later, and black gets his development sorted out. Uh, oh, you do have bishop d3. No, that might be a little bit too much, actually. No, I'm not convinced by bishop d3 at all. Um,
Mm.
'Cause there's knight c3, and then pretty sure h7 is the poison pawn.
Get your
Okay,
bishop trapped there with g6 at the end.
yeah. Or I mean, I can drop bishop back to e1, but then how am I ever going to remove this blockade on e4, right? Like bishop f5 is going to come. He doesn't even have to try to play for f5. He can just play bishop f5.
Yeah.
Don't quite have enough. I mean, yeah, I don't have enough light square control there. Well, and I don't really want to allow knight c3 either. It's just
You certainly want to keep the bishop pair. That's most of your advantage.
yeah.
So, okay, what other dark square bishop moves do you have?
Oh, there's this funny move, bishop a5.
I guess so.
Because I'm kind of threatening bishop c7. Trying to win a pawn. I mean, it's very sketchy, but provoking b6 is always nice because then I have bishop d5 ideas. Um, yeah, bishop a5. I don't know, that might be a little bit too artificial.
I would think so. Yeah.
Mhm. And bishop e4 is certainly not a favorable trade. I mean, I thought that bishop e1 was the only other alternative.
So I mean, keep
Makes
in mind you've
sense.
played f4,
Or bishop c1 also.
c1. What? Your bishop's on c3, right?
Oh yes, it's c3. Yeah, so bishop e1. I mean, as far as I can tell, that's the only
Oh,
other.
that might be the problem with your calculation here. Are we thinking about the same line here? So f4
What are
takes,
we?
bishop takes, knight e4. Are we on the same page here?
Yeah. So
Okay. Okay, so your bishop's on c3. You have additional options.
yeah.
You gonna consider bishop e5 at all?
Oh, bishop e5. No, I didn't even see that.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that certainly
yeah,
deserves consideration.
yeah. Bishop e5. I don't know why I
That's the
wasn't
queen
even
off from the
I
knight,
wasn't
right?
even thinking about
Yeah.
f4 creating an e5 outpost. Yeah, just didn't see that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I suppose it still creates the threat of bishop c7 sort of. Um, so let's say the knight
Yeah.
moves,
Yeah.
then the knight would probably have to move.
Maybe knight d6. All right.
Yeah, but then I bishop d3 hit the pawn.
Yeah. And then h6, e4 even, right? And you got what you wanted. If you get in f4 and e4 and you hold on to the bishop pair, you're going to be clearly better,
Hmm.
right?
I mean, the line still doesn't
So
end there
yeah, and
after bishop d3 in that
you're right.
line. There might be f6, which is actually it's probably just a dumb. Yeah, I can just take on h7, and I will probably
Yeah,
lose
they're not
e3 with
trapping
check.
the light square bishop then, right?
I'll lose the e3 pawn probably, but it doesn't matter because I still get the same compensation as
It's
in
like the lines we've
real
been
life.
looking at, but we're not even down a pawn because we got their
Yeah,
h pawn.
yeah.
So, yeah. So, okay, f4, bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, knight e4, bishop e5. If bishop f5, then just like bishop d3, right? I mean, the knight is not stable here at all.
Hmm.
In fact, black might just be losing a piece if they're not careful.
Yeah.
And so that seems pretty good. That seems pretty good.
Hmm.
The last thing, now, and this might seem silly, but it does deserve to be considered. They
I
might
was
not
looking at
take the
that.
knight. They might just drop back to d6,
I was
right?
looking at that, but the thing is that since the bishop is on that diagonal now, now e4 does not run into any tactics. Let's say like some queen c5 tactics, right? Um,
Well,
and
e4, they could try a clearance sacrifice to open up the way for queen c5.
oh, interesting. Rook, bishop f4. Oh, that's because I did calculate that line, but I didn't see bishop f4. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Let's think about that.
huh. Um, so after yeah, queen c5 check. So after bishop f4, rook f4, queen c5, you have to go to h1 to step out of any future checks, and then you have e5 at the end.
Ah, yeah,
Winning
that's a
piece there.
nice touch. E5,
Yeah,
discovery on the queen, hitting the knight. That is a good refutation to bishop takes f4.
yeah,
So, yep, yep. And if they don't have that, and we have these pawns here, and we're threatening to push up to e5, we're just going to be much better.
yeah.
Right?
Mm.
So, yeah, in conclusion, we've done all the necessary calculations, I would say. All that took like, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, but um,
So you don't
we
need
can
to
play
prepare it.
f4.
Yeah.
Don't need to prepare it. And a lot, if you don't need to prepare it, you shouldn't. Right?
Hmm.
If you've concretely calculated that it's working well for you in every line without any preparations being necessary, probably should just
Hmm.
send it right away. Now, there are times where being patient is called for, right? There are times when it's better to when you're in total control of the position, right? You want to be more patient and slowly build up, and then eventually play your move at a more perfect time. This
Yeah.
is not one of those positions where you can really afford to do that. You want to kind of act quickly before black is able to complete their development. Because if you give them time for bishop e6 and rook d8, or if you give them time for b5 and c5 and they start to advance their majority first, right, then they're going to take over the initiative. So this is a position where speed kind of matters. And so if we can play our key idea without any preparation, we should. And
Hmm.
f4 is the best move here. It's computer approved, and this is what Prognananda played. In the game, it went bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3. Yeah, if we were to recapture either, with the queen or pawn, we'd be significantly worse, right? This is, trying to hold on to the material is just going to get us into trouble. And in a position like this, we're just, clearly worse.
Yeah, of
So
course.
the idea is definitely to sacrifice the pawn. And then, yeah, stepping to h2 is better than h1. H1, yeah, like knight h5 could be a problem, or even b5, bishop b7, and then there's queen takes h3 ideas. This
Yeah.
could be an issue as well. So h2 is the much safer square. Here, knight e4, rook f3. We figured out this just wins. The queen is kicked away, and the knight is lost. And so, yeah, in the game, it went queen b6, rook f3, and I think it was, yeah, queen c6, bishop d3, h6, rook d1. I'll insert the rest of the game real quick because it's we don't need to spend a lot of time going over it, but it's a nice game overall. So queen b1. Now this was actually kind of unnecessary by Prague. He was, I think, um Yeah, there were some lines where he probably wanted to be able to take the knight without allowing the queen trade, but it was probably unnecessary. Rook g3 was best, but okay. He's still a bit better. And then bishop e6 here. I mean, black needed to get developed, but this was just bad, as it allows bishop takes f6.
Yeah.
And this totally justifies queen b1, right? The whole point of queen b1 was to make bishop e6 no longer playable, because black can't just trade into the endgame up a pawn. But then black plays it anyways and allows this. And, you know, f5 now clearing the way on the dark square diagonal, lifting up the other rook. And then, yeah, bishop d3 is nice. Of course, if bishop takes d3, we have a nice puzzle rush mate
Oh,
here.
nice. I was thinking rook h4,
Yeah.
but I didn't see that queen h6.
Oh, yeah, that works too. Yeah, actually, it's not a very good puzzle rush tactic because there are multiple solutions.
Yeah.
But okay,
Yeah.
queen e5, rook h4, h5, bishop takes, queen c4. And yeah, this is just over. Queen takes c4 and mate.
Even rook f3
So
there probably works. Maybe not. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
they could
That's
try to
interesting.
stay on the diagonal, but then there's also just like queen takes f7. So there's way too many threats, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. What other lines did we look at? We looked at so knight e4 here is no good because just bishop e5
Right.
is nice. Yeah. So you had a bit of a blind spot there. Did you just forget that we had played f4 and had support
Yeah.
for this square now?
Just sometimes I don't see
Okay.
those resources
All right.
in my visualization specifically. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
forgot.
Well,
Uh,
okay. That's why I think doing a lot of calculation exercises like this will help with that long
mhm.
term. I hope this is helping your visualization skills, and I'm pretty confident it is.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Because a lot of time, I get lazy when I try longer puzzles, and I um end up,
mhm.
if I'm doing it on a physical board, I'll play out some moves in order to aid my visualization instead of trying to solve the whole thing from scratch.
Yeah, and I'm forcing you to do it the right way.
Yeah, it's
You
definitely
gotta figure out the
more.
whole thing in your head ahead of time, just like you would in a tournament game, right? You wouldn't really dare to make any move of a combination unless you were sure the whole thing worked, right?
Mhm.
So, um, okay, yeah, and then like let's see. Oh yeah, the other thing was just bishop d6, e4. This is a really interesting try, but it fails because of, as you said, rook takes, and then here we have e5 at the end of the line,
Yeah.
which is a nice touch. So, all right, nice job with that calculation. Yeah, and I think that principle, that strategic principle, is important too. We saw that last week too. In there was the Caro-Kann puzzle where we were contemplating just going for the minority attack right away. Right, if we can go b5, b4 immediately without any preparation, we should. Same
Mhm.
thing applies here. We know we want to expand with the pawn majority in the center. If we need to prep it, then okay, we can consider playing moves like rook e1, but then maybe we're giving time for black to strike back,
Mhm.
somehow. But if we can just send it right away, then we should.
Yeah,
And
actually.
I'm glad you're willing to sacrifice pawns.
Mhm.
You say you like to sack pawns?
Yeah. People say I sack pawns too often.
Often?
Based on my
Okay,
style, yeah.
well,
And actually, funnily enough,
that's fine.
this plan of f4 and expanding like this with the pawn on e3 is an idea that I first picked up from this similar Budapest line, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Oh yeah,
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 that
you
line
see
of
this a
e3
lot in the
f4 e4
Budapest.
f4, yeah, using that 4-on-3 queenside shorty.
Yep. Yeah, that's
And
I
yeah, in
know
all those
somebody
lines,
else
you
who
do sack,
plays
you
that
do
same
sack
open
e3.
approach.
Yeah, so I did tinker with that myself from the white side, and in a lot of those lines, yeah, you do end up just sacking e3 just because black is so
Mhm.
underdeveloped with his bad pieces. And
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right. Let's see. We won't have time to do all the rest of these, but I always put in more than uh more than we have time for, just in case you get through them at lightning pace. But um okay. I think this is another interesting position.
Mhm.
Our first e4 position of the day.
Yeah, it looks like one of
Yeah, it looks
those
like one of those. Yep.
Yeah, one of those like drier French lines. Hmm,
Yeah. Yeah, I do think this came from a French.
but okay.
All right. So what would you think about doing here?
Okay, so obviously there's a ton of pressure on f3. If knight e5 works, I want to play it. I think that's pretty evident. But bishop e5 is the main like deterrent that I should try looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not even the pawn loss that I'm afraid of. It's the fact that like you can just take and go queen g6, for example. Um,
Okay. Yeah, so that needs to be calculated, right? They might not even take the gambit pawn. They might just make the mate threat.
yeah.
So let's calculate that. What happens after queen g6?
Yeah, that's strange because I just don't see anything at all. Um,
Well, you
and I
don't
mean,
you don't
if he
necessarily need to have anything brilliant. You just need
if
to
he
stop
defend
the
against the
mate.
mate, yeah, if you defend against the mate, like I guess the main thing we should calculate is if black can safely castle after that, trying to make use of this
Right.
pin.
Right. So we could stop the mate with f3 or g3. What seems to be better?
f3, I think it's pretty obvious.
F3.
I mean, you
We
got rid of
definitely
the
want to
stars for
blunt the
bishop,
light
yeah.
square bishop.
And then
Yeah.
castles, bishop d7. It's very tricky. But okay, so I guess uh we are immediately threatening queen a4. So let's say they play c6, which looks stupid because it blunts his own bishop, but he just wants to stop queen a4 and just trying to win the piece back. But I mean, that's just very, very slow. Well, I guess he's immediately threatening bishop c8, so I guess it's not that slow. Yeah, so c6, I guess, be the only try.
C6 threatening bishop c8. How does c6 help bishop c8?
Oh, okay, yeah, I just hallucinated there. Oops. Yeah, so
You can
bishop
just do it right
c8.
away,
Yeah,
yeah.
bishop c8. Um, and the queen is safe. Yeah, there's oh, king's on g8, bishop c8. Any queen sacks? Most likely not, because he still has another rook on the back rank. Bishop c8.
Bishop c8 seems to be a problem. Right. I don't think
Yeah.
you should
Well,
definitely consider bishop a3 in many different situations, but here as well, just going after the rook on f8. But then they just have rook takes d7, right? Hitting the queen.
mhm.
And then we save the queen. They double rooks on the d file. Seems like black has gotten safely castled and fully developed, and
Right.
probably not a great outcome. All right. So knight e5, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen g6, f3, castles. Yeah, bishop takes d7, bishop c8. It seems like it's just going to be a trade of bishop for knight ultimately.
Mhm.
And so,
I mean, I also saw bishop c2, but or bishop a3 first, actually. Yeah. No, I can't actually tell bishop a3 is a good inclusion or not. I don't know if my bishop wants to be on that diagonal, honestly.
Well, okay, if black responds to it, then it's probably a good inclusion. Like, let's say bishop a3, rook e8.
Hmm.
Well, then bishop takes knight seems a lot better, yeah? Because
Is
bishop
it?
c8, take on e8. I
Oh
should have
yeah,
had you figure
yeah.
that out yourself, my bad.
Interesting.
But like
Yeah.
I should have I should have had you figure that out. But you could give up the queen, but if you get two rooks and a knight for it, that's great, right? So bishop a3, you
G3.
also, of course, need to consider what if they don't respond to that? Because they
Hmm.
could have some discoveries with
Yeah, of
some knight move.
course. Yeah. So that's like, yeah, the main point is if he doesn't take, there's 90. If we don't take on d7 right away, which I think we've already concluded that that doesn't work,
Mhm.
95 could be somewhat annoying. Um, is there even? I mean, there doesn't seem to be any favorable queen or not queen sacrifice, but like a way to go for a queen there. It's weird. I mean, there's even a threat of knight f3 immediately.
Yeah.
So f3 cast bishop a3 95. The knight is loose though. The knight is
Hmm.
loose. So a move like queen e2 would protect f3 and also still keep attacking f8. Is that good for us? Not sure. Because our structure and our king safety is kind of questionable. Hmm. I mean, a rook's a rook, right? On f8, so
That's true.
yeah, I was trying to find ways to create counterplay, but I'm kind of dismissing them one by one. Just because if you can eliminate one of the rooks, then I don't see how the knight on e5 will be stable anywhere.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Queen e2 could work. That's not the I remember when I analyzed this wasn't the main move, but I'm trying to refute it and I haven't been able to yet.
Hmm.
Um they could take on f3 anyways. Rook takes, bishop takes, queen takes.
Can
But
you do that?
then and I'm thinking at the end maybe there's rook d3, right? Because their rook on f8 is trapped, but if with the queen on g6 supporting d3, if they can go rook d3 and rook d8,
So just give those two
then
pieces just to go rook d3. I'm not quite
well,
understanding
they're
the
getting two
point.
pawns for it also, right?
Oh well.
Well, and it's for a rook.
I
So
mean,
it's like
those look like two really good pieces. Those are like black's two most active pieces by far. So
well, but
the knight
imagine okay,
e5 and the bishop
they're on
b7.
nice diagonals, but if the rooks all get developed onto the d file, black can maybe work around them, right?
So they're saying rook
I don't know.
d3
I'm
and the
just
queen moves and then doubling up the rooks. I don't know.
yeah,
It still strikes me as sketchy because the big problem
might
for
be.
the big problem for black is that I think that in a lot of these positions, if white's able to get a queen trade, I guess here there's no way to get a
Mhm.
queen trade, right? Because the rook on d3 will prevent any like queen g3 ideas or anything. But I'm just saying, like in the future, if you do get to find a way to trade queens, then the structure is going to be really bad and it looks pretty good for the minor
I don't know if I
pieces.
agree with that because I don't know. Black has two extra pawns here. With the rook on d3, the c3 pawn could easily fall.
Yeah, I see that. Hmm. I mean, yeah, it's really hard because it's very far in the future, and not sure what other moves black could try. But yeah, maybe queen two is a little bit too slow anyway.
I do think there is well, I know that there is a move that's more convincing than queen e2 there.
Right.
You mentioned that the knight on e5 is vulnerable. It is unprotected. It's not the only vulnerability black has though.
Hmm. Yeah.
Bishop on b7 is unprotected as well.
So 95 takes queen g6. Yeah, so there's various queen moves like queen b3, queen b1, but huh. Queen b1, I suppose, is the main idea because you do have to make contact with his queen so that um so that moves like knight f3 are not
Knight
a
six,
problem.
right? Because then you can just take on f3.
I guess the difference,
No?
yeah, so I guess the difference between that is that uh well, isn't wait, am I hallucinating or is that just like a worse version of what we discussed before? Or it's different. It's different because the rook's not on d3. It's similar to that rook d3 line where
The difference is
you
they
said
don't
that.
get to save the rook on f8, right? So let's say, okay, after queen g6, queen b1, okay, sorry, okay, knight e5, takes, queen g6, f3, castles, bishop
a3,
a3, knight takes e5,
queen
queen
b1.
b1. Are you thinking they would take on f3 there? Because knight takes f3, rook takes f3, bishop takes f3, queen takes g6.
Maybe you
Let's
just
say
be
f
up a
takes
piece.
g6. Yeah, we don't take on f3 there, we take on f8.
Yeah, we take on f8 and you're just up an entire
And
piece.
you're just up a piece. Right.
Right. Yeah, that's obviously much better, right? Okay. Uh
Mhm. So yeah, after
and
queen
okay.
b1, is there anything else for black?
So bishop f3 is not possible either. You trade queens and you just go gf3, get up a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, black can try to prod a little bit because our bishops are kind of funny on a3 and h4 and a4. But again, the bishop, the rook on f8 is still loose. Um,
In what line? I mean, I think we just win it in every line because it's trapped, right? What line do we not just win the rook in?
mm. Yeah, good question. Yeah, it's just yeah, I mean, he can try trading queens, but then he's gonna just lose the rook anyway on f8.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the main point. So like knight e5, takes, queen g6, f3, castles, bishop a3, knight takes e5, queen b1. If they trade the queens, just queen takes b1, rook a takes b1. The
Hmm.
main point there is that there's just no saving the rook on f8.
Hmm.
Otherwise, we'd just be down a pawn in an endgame. But no, we're winning the exchange because the rook on f8 there is trapped, right? With the
Yeah.
bishop covering e8.
Hmm.
The knight's on e5, so there's no blocking with c5. We just take that, right? And so, okay, we're going to be up the exchange for a pawn in that endgame.
Hmm.
And so that seems quite good. So yeah, that's the line after queen g6 figured out pretty well.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, the key, of course, f3 to stop the mate, and then bishop a3, and then queen b1. That's really the nice move that you want to find it. Queen e2 might work as well. It's something we can take a look at it in a little bit. But I don't think we're quite done calculating this knight e5 move because, okay, although I agree with you that queen g6 probably is the critical test, we do need to think about queen takes e5 as well.
Yeah,
Like
because
optically, of course, we're going to have some compensation, but we should try to prove it.
yeah, because similarly, black is maybe threatening to castle right away. Just because moves like bishop a3 can be can possibly be met with c5 this time.
Yeah.
Uh, so I suppose that the move we should start with is definitely bishop a3.
Yeah.
And from e5, there doesn't seem to be. Okay, there's like, sure, there's like queen d5 or whatever. Actually, queen d5 is a lot more annoying than I thought. Actually, quite annoying. So let's say like queen g4 castles, and then the two bishops are just kind of loose on the edge of the board there.
Wait, okay, wait. After bishop a3, were they playing c5 or were they playing queen d5?
What c5 doesn't work though? Queen d5, man.
If they're well, okay, if they're playing queen d5, then after queen g4, they can't castle.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Oh no, I meant sorry, I meant moves like queen a5. I just meant that the bishops are loose on the side of the board there. So moves like queen a5 could be annoying. But you do get to
Okay,
take on
I mean,
g7, but
oh, okay, so yeah, you're saying queen
yeah.
g4 there, maybe queen a5.
Even c5 is
But yeah,
actually
we take
just a move.
g7, and then we could always, probably even, does queen f6 just win there? Just like, or wait, no, wait, rook f8. We could just wait. Queen takes f8's mate in one, isn't it? Okay, yeah. So that's a problem. So
Um,
okay,
wait, in what line?
okay. Knight e5, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, bishop a3, queen d5, queen g4. Or were you saying? Yeah, queen d5, queen g4? Were you saying queen a5 there? Because I was thinking if
Oh
queen
yeah, yeah.
a5 there,
Yeah, then
then
take
we take
g7. Yeah.
g7.
For some reason I thought black would
Okay.
have an extra move there and then you can eliminate the bishop on a4 in time, but he's not. He's not in time for that. So yeah, queen g4. But let's say even like before that, a couple moves prior, c5 is
Bishop
always,
a3, c5. That is the critical test. Yes.
or even queen d5 first and then c5. Like I don't see. Okay, the difference is that after queen d5, the g7 pawn will be loose. Okay, I see that. Um, bishop a3, c5 right away though with the queen on e5 still. And if you play slowly with like rook e1, just some move. After queen d5, maybe black can castle next.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see a way to prevent queen d5.
So,
Mm.
well, we shouldn't necessarily be opposed to a queen trade there because if we trade the queens and then are able to take on c5, get the pawn back, still prevent black from
Oh yeah, that
castling.
for sure, yeah. I mean, it's not like I'm afraid of, I do see the obvious compensation long term with the bishop pair. It's just that I'm trying to find ways like resources for black to um
Mm.
at the moment, sure, black can't castle, but it's not too big of a concern just yet if he can somehow take advantage of these bishops
Okay.
that are loose on the side again.
Hard for them to do that after c5 because that does obstruct the queen from
Yeah,
getting over to
that's
a5.
that too. And I guess you're
But I think
suggesting
that
that.
this is this is the critical line that needs to be calculated. So bishop a3, c5, right? And what I think black wants to do after c5 is bring the queen back to c7, cover all their stuff, right? And then get castled. And if
Right.
they're able to consolidate like that, and you're just down the e pawn for nothing, then okay, this could be bad, right? So after c5, we really need to find something concrete before black gets to castle.
Right. Right. C5. Yeah, and in this line, after black plays c5, yeah, queen g4 just doesn't seem to do much at all.
Yeah, not if they can just castle.
Mhm.
Hmm. So
And like
might need
I,
to
I I
bring
want to
in.
activate, I want to like play rook e1, but as you said, it helps black with queen c7. Let's say queen c7. Um, yeah, I mean the pawn's on c5 still, so and your bishop on a3 is not too effective. Um, yeah, it's very tough.
Mhm. It does seem necessary to bring in another piece. So I like trying to activate a rook. But yeah, rook e1 just probably helps them back up to c7. But
Yeah, there's rook
there's
b1
also
as
rook
well, and then
b1. Yeah.
yeah, rook b1, queen c7. Does that help us? Playing rook e, yeah, rook b1. Okay, instead of rook e1, definitely is more active. But after queen c7 again, uh, there is queen b3, possibly. Queen b3, and then I suppose bishop b6. Sorry, bishop c6.
Yeah. That seems annoying. They're trying to just trade off the bishops. Your dark square bishop is still shut down.
Hmm.
Not convincing. The it really comes down to whether or not your dark square bishop can be shut down, right? If you can open that dark square bishop back up again and prevent black from castling, you're probably just winning,
Hmm.
right?
But the
So
problem is
it
like,
comes down to, is there any way to open that up again?
I mean, the problem is if knight five just doesn't work because of this c5 resource, then I mean, I just don't have anything, and black's clearly, slightly better in the middle game.
Well,
Um,
okay, I would say the
okay, maybe not
alternative
slightly
is rook
better.
b1. right? Like we could have this end game where it's bishop pair,
But
and this end game is probably slightly better for white. The computer's saying plus 0.2. So, that's the alternative. But
let's
that's,
see.
kind of lame compared to knight e5, right? We really want knight e5 to work because it could just be crushing.
C5, yeah.
So c5, rook b1, queen c7. Again,
Yeah,
if we can open
that
up
seems to
that
be the most
square
promising
bishop.
continuation so far.
Yeah.
Open up. Are you suggesting to sack the exchange? And play with the two bishops like that? Still down a
Definitely
pawn.
should be thought
Okay,
about.
you win your pawn back. It's just a clean exchange sack to open the bishop. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that looks really good.
Queen d6 coming next, right? Or, queen d4 trying to hit g7 could also be quite good.
Oh
It's
yeah. I should. Yeah, rook
yeah.
b7 was just a blind, just a yeah,
I
just a
think
blind
okay,
spot
so
there.
rook takes
But rook
b7, queen takes
b7,
b7. Taking on c5 is good there. I would argue queen d6 is actually more precise.
it is. Yeah, because there's no queen b8. You can just take on
Right. No
d7.
queen b8. Now, is there queen d5 there?
Is it a queen d5? Um, queen d5. X. Can you double up? Can you allow the queen trade and just play like rook d1,
d1?
rook f d1? Oh no, you can't because you can just take and play king e7, I believe.
Oh, I see. Rook to d1, they trade.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah,
doesn't.
probably not that way.
Queen d5. Okay. Bishop c5 was another way to go into that end game. But again, with only
That's
one
true.
rook left on the board and like our knight gone, it seems
It's
that
not convincing, right? They could
black can probably
even,
consolidate with just moving the rook away and play king d8 or even
yeah, it's gonna be awkward for
f6.
them, but they'll
Yeah,
probably survive. So,
right. It's very
anything else
tricky.
after
Queen
queen d5?
d6, queen d5. No, I'm looking at forcing options as well, like bishop d7, but I don't see what that.
What's the most forcing? Well, okay,
Yeah,
actually, I
bishop
should say
d7.
bishop d7 is the most forcing option.
Am I just
Um,
missing something or
have you considered trading the queens? I know it's counterintuitive, but you could initiate the queen trade and
with the
open the e
bishop
file.
gone though?
Yeah. Okay,
Um,
if you get
how does that open the
queen,
e file? You mean trading before instead of bishop
trading on,
d7, trading d5. Oh,
right.
yeah, no, I did not see that. Yeah, so now rookie one just wins.
King f8.
Oh, he actually doesn't win right away. Okay. Uh, bishop d7, I suppose, and then bishop c5,
Mhm.
back rank mate.
Yeah. Yeah. So after bishop takes d7, they can't take the bishop. You just have the two bishops for the rook.
And you just need that one rook on e1 just to deliver the crushing blow. Yeah, queen
Yeah.
d5.
Black's playing down a full rook here, right? This h8's doing nothing. So
Yeah. What I need
yeah,
to
so I
stop
think
that
that's a
whole
really nice
line.
line.
I guess it's not too hard,
Yeah,
right?
so
Like every move is very natural for black.
mhm.
Um, but for me, it would be tough to, find all these branches in a real game in time.
Yeah, it would certainly take some time. If you were playing if this was like a game 30, you might need to just make a bit more of an intuitive call.
Yeah, I mean, can I
Uh
play? I feel like 95 can be played on intuition because for me, it just looks like any move other than 95. If you don't play 95, then I don't see what White's playing for in this middle
oh,
game, right?
again, rook b1 is a valid option as well. Like this is
I mean, I
this is
don't
going to
want
be
to like,
slightly better for white.
I would
You
not want to
have
play like
the
this.
ability to infiltrate, you got the bishop pair.
I'd rather
So,
play a move like 95,
mhm.
even if it doesn't lead to like a strict advantage for White. Like even if Black's like maybe a tiny bit better after 95, I'd rather play 95 than than just play Rook B1. Uh,
So, okay, and yeah, you don't need to have that entire line calculated out to mate like we did to play 95. It's not necessary, but you want to have the skills to be able to do that. And,
right.
and
Mm,
if you have the time, like if you're playing a 2 hour game and you have like an hour 45 still in this position, I would definitely invest a good 20 minutes or maybe even 30 minutes calculating. Um,
mhm.
because I mean it's quite possible that this just fails, right? Like if black gets to take it twice and then shut down your bishop with c5 and they get to castle, you're just going to be down a pawn,
Right.
right?
And one
So
last
it
thing,
I think it yeah.
I suppose that C5 is not forced there. I think Black can play a productive move before playing C5. Um,
So much as
oh wait, no, never mind. There's a mate threat, right? Just Queen D6 if you move too far. So I was thinking like insert Queen A5 first, but that doesn't help him. Because
no,
there's
I mean
still
if
the
there's
pin,
still a
right?
pawn on c7, they have d6 covered.
Okay, yeah. In this line, yeah, you're right.
So you like maybe
But
they
yeah,
throw in queen
like
g5 or something.
or like Queen A5, as I suggested earlier.
Oh, queen a5, yeah. Well, we do still have the light square bishop protected there, so maybe queen a5, just bishop b4,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just rook b1,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's possible, by the way, that black could play like bishop c8 or something ultra passive, and
Yeah.
and maybe hold everything together, but they're going to be clearly worse.
But I
So,
feel that it's still very, very tricky because if Black doesn't play the C5 right away, because I think we've looked at C5 right away, just Rook B1, and I
mhm.
mean, okay, the bishop can
Stand up
move
the same.
back, let's say, but
Yeah.
but even if that doesn't happen, right? Like as I suggested, Black will play some other useful move before playing C5, and he can always play C5 whenever he wants because there's no threat necessarily right now. The
So
real
one of the
like
threats is queen g4, or
Queen
something
G4.
like that. Queen g4 could set up for queen b4 as well, which is nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Queen g4 with pressure here and pressure with queen b4. So
Sure, okay,
that could be a concern.
that is probably important, yeah. Hmm.
Mhm. Now maybe bishop a3, queen g5 is like okay, knight e5 takes bishop a3, queen g5. It I don't want to play f3 there, but maybe we have to.
F3 and then maybe allowing Queen E3 check though.
Yeah, but that's probably fine. I don't think I care. They could take on c3. Does that scare me? They take on c3 there.
Hmm. And with all these lines opened up, move like C5. cannot possibly work, because if you deflect the queen, then bishop c5 can just open the bishop up again. So yeah, it's a lot more complex than I thought it would be.
It's very complex. It's very complex. And I'm kind of stumped after queen takes c3. So, well, I know we've spent a ton of time on this, but now you got to give me like 1 minute to figure out queen, because I want to make sure that we're happy after that move.
Queen g5.
Is there any better way to stop the mate? G3 is not going to be. I don't think we're going to be happy with G3, but we could be, because let's say if they go queen D5 there, and we trade the queens, bishop takes, and then
But the thing is, in these lines,
something
black
like
did not play c5, which is to his benefit, right? That he did not play c5. Yeah, that's why I did not want to play c5 for black right away. I thought that
it was
some other move it would be more critical, right? Because that just
to
creates
his
a
benefit
weakness.
that it doesn't hang the pawn, but
Yeah,
it's not to his benefit that he still can't move his king.
sure, but if he can trade queens,
Uh,
right? Like, is there an issue?
I think that's still an issue, yeah, because this pin is very difficult to get out of.
Okay.
Let's just say knight e5 takes, bishop a3, queen g5, g3, queen d5 takes, bishop takes, and then something like rook d1.
Okay.
If you
So I guess
cast,
you're
well, you can't castle, but c4 is the idea, maybe.
okay. So let's
Or
say okay. So is black in time to play f6 king f7 or not?
f6, maybe I play rook ab1.
Uh,
And you can never go king f7 because c4. Okay, lots of arrows. Very confusing. But
rook ab1. You're saying rook ab1 there after
yeah,
f6.
yeah.
And what's your idea with that?
I want to go c4. Bishop takes c4.
Oh,
Rook
c4
takes
and then rook
d7.
takes d7, right? That puzzle rush idea. Okay.
And rook b8. Yep.
Yeah, that looks pretty scary.
Pretty hard for black to get out of that, right? They're just in a
And
total bind here with the bishops.
bishop takes a2 is obviously not possible either.
Yeah, that's it.
Because
Could
rook
even
d7
just fish.
or no, I was thinking rook d7, bishop b1, and then rook d1 back seems to win a piece.
Oh, and get the two minor pieces. That works.
minor
There's
pieces.
also bishop takes d7 checks, probably more forcing. Rook takes, rook b8, king e7, trade the rooks,
right? Yeah,
take the other rook.
Of course.
Yeah, but okay. Well, I think we've done adequate calculation to be able to play knight e5. We've probably done more than enough calculation to be confident with this move. But yeah, so the first thing we thought about was queen g6. We're saying f3, castles, bishop a3. Yeah, this is not that great. After bishop c8. Of course, bishop c6, we'd be happy to give up the queen and get the rook and two bishops. For the queen, this is much better for white. But bishop c8 works a lot better for black. And then here we are arguably a little bit worse because black has the d file. So this is not great. But bishop a3 instead works very nicely. Now rook e8, we can take on d7. Bishop c8, we take on e8. And we get the two rooks and the bishop for the queen. And so instead, they would almost certainly try knight takes e5. And okay, so here you were wondering about queen e2. Turns out that's equal. The computer just says, it says minus 0.1 after. Oh, wow. Okay. That's really, I didn't see that though. I'll be honest. I didn't see why. This is beautiful. Bishop takes f3, rook takes f3, rook d2.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's
Nice.
why it's equal. And then, wow, we need to find queen f1, knight takes, queen takes, rook d8. And
but the difference is that black's rook is already on d2 as opposed to d3.
Right, they gained a tempo basically, whereas the line that I was thinking of.
And is this better for white
After rook d3, queen e2, rook d8.
Is white in time to
oh, there's
consolidate?
bishop c2 at the end.
Oh,
okay. That's what I missed. If not for bishop c2, everything else is equal here.
Yeah, so let's say
according
bishop
to the
d2,
computer.
rook d2, you can take on d2 even.
Right.
Yeah.
Just a bit a desperado, and you'll be up a piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Wow. So in any case, more convincing is Queen B1. This is well, okay. That's
Mhm.
Queen B1. Yeah, yeah. Getting the queen trade or getting the bishop, and meanwhile the rook on F8 is still trapped. If knight takes F3, rook takes, bishop takes, we trade the queens, and then well, they'd probably try F takes maybe to try to escape with the rook, but we just take the rook and take the bishop. We don't have a whole lot of pawns left, but it should be enough to win. I yeah, I believe white wins this. And that's pretty much it. After queen b1, there's nothing else to do. They could trade and play like bishop c6, but takes. We'll win this endgame
Too
with
many weaknesses
being up the
there.
exchange.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so then we actually spent the bulk of our time looking at queen takes e5, which, okay, I was saying queen g6 is more critical, but I don't know. This seems just as critical, maybe more.
Hmm.
Bishop a3. And I do think the immediate c5 is black's best try because they desperately need to get castled
Hmm.
for the sake of their king safety and for the sake of their rook in the corner. Uh, Computer agrees c5 is the best attempt, and there are only two moves here that lead to an advantage for white. They're rook b1 and queen b3. And I think rook b1 is better because it brings a new piece into play, right? The queen on d1 is already exerting influence. The rook on a1 is doing nothing.
Hmm.
So logically, we should bring a new piece into play. And the best move here for black, which we didn't really spend time calculating, is bishop c8. And the reason we didn't calculate it is there's not much to calculate. We can just know that we're going to have good compensation if black's having to play moves like this, right? This is one of those points where there's not much more to calculate. You just kind of evaluate the position. And
Even just
okay, maybe
rookie one looks pretty good, right?
rookie one looks pretty good. Although I don't
Queen
know if I want to
c3,
hang the
bishop
c pawn.
b2. Well, bishop b2 at the end will win g7. That's
Oh, you're
definitely
right.
bad.
That's a good point. So they would have to come back here and then like queen h5 or something, right? Queen h5, castles, even c4. Yeah,
Bishop
then
b2
there's
and
there's
bishop
just there's
c2, right? Or even, yeah, I would just shift the
Mhm.
attention over to the king side even. Bishop c2,
Yeah,
bishop
it could be some rook lift action potentially. White's better here.
mhm.
White's better. Not by much actually. It's like plus 0.4, plus 0.5, but the
But I feel like in
white's better.
practice,
And maybe there were even better ways to play it. Like
yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
the computer here likes queen d3 for some reason. But okay. Well, what we looked at is the logical queen c7, and here there's a very nice win for white. Now, okay, I guess, and I didn't even think about this, which is bad, but we don't have to sack the exchange. We could also just take c5 right away
Oh yeah, the rook
because
on b7 is even better. Yeah. I
Because
don't
yeah, I'd rather have rook on b7. That's even better. So okay,
mhm.
maybe rook takes b7. I was getting a little bit too fancy, and
No, but it looks
just the
really good.
immediate bishop takes
It
c5
looks really
is
good.
cleaner. But yeah, this
Yeah.
is winning as well. And okay, and I'm checking with the computer now. The computer says this is +6 and this is +6. Um, I like queen d6 better personally, just because it seems very forcing.
Hmm.
If bishop takes c5, there's like queen c7, and then bishop d6, queen takes c3, and it's like this is still really good for white, but I don't see the knockout punch quite yet.
Well, I don't really
Whereas
see the need to find a
if we
knockout
start
punch, really.
with yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But if we start with this, they don't have any good way to ask for a queen trade, and they don't have any good like because this, as we found out, just loses to this line, right?
Yeah, of course. Mm.
No. Yeah, and so okay, we also at the end we're thinking about alternatives to c5 for black, like queen g5,
Hmm.
f3. Although I think I settled on g3, right?
Hmm.
Queen d5 takes, bishop takes, rook d1. And we were saying, and this is all right according to the computer, which yay, I'm happy with that. And if f6, oh, that's nice. We actually there's just the immediate rook takes d5 here. I didn't even see that.
Oh,
Takes,
because he had
takes,
rook
rook e1,
e7. Yeah.
and rook e7. That's right. And then,
Mm.
yeah, you want to keep a pair of rooks on the board, right? So there's a principle that if you have two rooks against one, the side with two rooks wants to trade rooks. right?
Of
If you
course.
have the one rook against the two rooks, you should keep your one rook on the board. So yeah, bishop takes d7 is much better than rook takes here, and this is +6. So that's nice. But even I was just saying rook a b1, which is bad. Oh, you know why that's bad? King f7, c4. There's just bishop e4. I totally overlooked that. Okay, so that's bad. I did some poor calculation there. Yeah, but really this is the way to crash through. Yeah. And okay, lastly, we also thought about, no, that's pretty much it, isn't it? Did we? Yeah, I guess there's like queen e4, f3, and like they could stick the queen here, for example. But I don't know. We get very good compensation after just like rook b1 and rook e1. If they try c5 now, this just wins a piece. So yeah, there's a lot that you can calculate, and you don't need to calculate all of it, right? At some point, I mean, playing 95, it's a combination of being happy with your calculations and also just it's a gut call, right? It's an intuition thing as well. It's a combination of both. You don't want to play it just based on intuition. Obviously, you need to have some calculations to back up your decision, or else you gotta make sure that you're gonna have good compensation for the pawn, right? And what that I would say good compensation here is black's king being stuck in the center. If black gets to castle, we probably don't have the greatest compensation for the pawn. So as long as in the lines that I'm calculating, we're either winning or black's king is at the very least going to be stuck in the center, I'm happy, right? And we can go for it.
Right.
Oh. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, good job with the calculation today. Like already genuinely improvements from last week, I can notice. And you're able to calculate quite deep, right? So I think there were a lot of lines we were calculating tonight where you were going like 10 moves deep into the line and keeping track of it fairly well.
Yeah.
So that's good. You got to make sure that when you're in a game, you actually use these calculation abilities that you have, right? Make sure that you're not lazy at all.
Yeah, I am
And
very lazy. That's what I've noticed. And I also have lots of just random brain fart moments where, okay, it's not like a really bad brain fart and that I'm just hanging material in one move, but it's more that like in a certain line, like I just avoid a certain line because of some small detail that I either didn't notice at all or some move I missed. Just a lot of weird psychological factors into play, but I'm trying to get better at seeing the board more clearly.
yeah,
And
yeah. Okay.
But I will try to
I
put more
guess.
effort into the actual specific calculation process. Yeah, because I have a big tournament this weekend, so I'm leaving in a couple of days.
Do you know? Okay.
Yeah.
What time control is it?
Oh, it's 90-30 with I can't remember if last year they also had the plus 30.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
it's one of the
Yeah.
two. But yeah, I will
It's I mean, hey, just try to do a lot of calculating. Try to, and be confident in your calculation abilities and be confident in the evaluations that you come to. Try to try to trust your calculations more than your intuition. Which, because I think I've just noticed from your games, it seems like you'll have your intuition will think one thing and your calculation will think another thing, but at the end of the day, you'll often side with what your intuition said over what your calculation said. So just make sure that you're, trusting your calculations, and you can calculate deeply. And if the position calls for it, then you absolutely should. And when there's a 30-second increment, I'm kind of like you. I don't actually mind getting far down on the clock. Now, okay, it's not ideal, of course, but if you watch my games, I'll often be down 20 minutes on time, even 30 minutes on time, which you can do when there's a 30-second increment, and it will most of the time pay off, I'll say. Right? If you're spending a lot of time in the, middle game, making sure that you're coming up with the right plan, making sure that you're playing precisely with good calculation. If you get to like a +1.5 position, but you're down 30 minutes on the clock, that's okay. You're going to have an easy position to play. You're much better. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm always an advocate of take your time early on, try to be as precise as possible, get a good position out of the opening, have a good plan in the middle game. And even if you're down 30, 40 minutes, it'll work out in the end, as long as you've spent your time wisely and have gotten a good position as a result. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Well, good luck in the tournament this weekend. Make sure to send me your games once you're done,
Oh
so I
yeah,
can take a
I'm
look
gonna
at them.
be
All right.
gonna be streaming a lot too during the event and analyzing during the event.
Okay.
So yeah, so hopefully it goes well.
Oh,
But
I need to follow you on Twitch
first
if I'm
few,
not already.
yeah, it's just
What's your
my Lichess username. It's the same, but
PD 159?
yeah, I mean, granted, probably the first 2 to 4 rounds will be the rounds I take the most seriously, just because we have a tradition where we go out to the because it's gonna be a tournament in the mountains, and there's
Yeah.
there's a nightclub there, so we all go to the nightclub
Okay.
on one of the nights. So yeah, I don't know. The last 2 rounds might be a little bit shaky,
We'll see.
to
We'll
put it
see.
mildly,
I
but
mean,
yeah.
the best tournament I ever had, I played in
Yeah,
Vegas,
you told me
and
about
I was,
that.
hungover for like 3 of the rounds and still
Yeah.
managed to beat IMs and GMs. So, yeah,
Yeah, I don't have that
you'll do just
experience playing well, like that. So,
fine.
but all right,
All right.
yeah,
Well,
I'll send
have a fun
I'll
time,
make sure that
and yeah,
yeah,
let me know how it goes. I'll try to tune into some of the streams if I can as well.
yeah, we'll see.
So,
Okay.
all right, Paris. Well, have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
See you next
Thanks.
time.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. Bye.